The bitter truth: why INFJs struggle in life more than others. Imagine being the person who sees everything, people's hidden intentions, the emotional undercurrents in every room, the future consequences of decisions no one else is thinking about yet. Now imagine living in a world that doesn't reward any of that. INFJs are often told they're rare, gifted, insightful. But no one talks about the cost of being wired this way. Today, we're revealing the bitter truth. Why INFJs struggle in life more than most people. Not because they're weak, but because they're built for a world that doesn't exist. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why so many INFJs feel misunderstood, exhausted, and quietly overwhelmed, even when they're doing everything right. Stay until the end, because the final reason explains why INFJs often feel like life itself is pushing against them. INFJs make up less than 2% of the population. They are deep thinkers, future-focused, emotionally perceptive. On paper, that sounds like a superpower. But in real life, it often feels like a burden. While others move fast, INFJs pause. While others chase status, INFJs search for meaning. While others speak without thinking, INFJs think without speaking. And over time, this creates friction, internal conflict, and a quiet kind of suffering most people never notice. This video isn't about glorifying INFJs. It's about explaining why life feels harder for them, and why that struggle is real. Here are the 10 reasons. As you listen, notice how many of these feel uncomfortably familiar. Most INFJs don't struggle because of one big problem. They struggle because of 10 small ones that stack up over time. And the first one starts early in life. 1. They see too much too soon. INFJs tend to mature faster than their environment. As children, they notice emotional patterns others miss. They sense tension between adults. They understand consequences before anyone explains them. But here's the problem. The world isn't built for early emotional awareness. While other kids are focused on fun, INFJs are already asking questions like, why do people lie? Why does this feel wrong? Why does no one notice this problem? This creates isolation early on. INFJs often feel older than their peers, not smarter, but heavier. They carry emotional information they never asked for. And instead of being guided through this awareness, many INFJs are told to relax, stop overthinking, or just be normal. So they learn a dangerous lesson early in life, that their perceptions are inconvenient. Over time, this leads to self-doubt. They stop trusting what they see. They silence their intuition to fit in. But the awareness never leaves. It just turns inward. And when a personality built for insight is forced into suppression, the result is anxiety, loneliness, and internal pressure. And this leads directly to the second struggle, one that follows INFJs into adulthood. 2. They feel responsible for other people's emotions. INFJs don't just understand emotions. They absorb them. When someone is upset, INFJs feel it in their body. When someone is lost, INFJs feel responsible to help. When a group is tense, INFJs instinctively try to restore balance. At first, this looks like kindness. But over time, it becomes emotional labor. INFJs become the listener, the mediator, the quiet supporter. They are the ones people vent to, but rarely check on. And here's the bitter truth. Most people don't notice when an INFJ is overwhelmed. Because INFJs don't show it. They've learned that being strong means being silent. So they keep giving. They keep understanding. They keep absorbing. Until one day, they're exhausted. And no one knows why. This is why many INFJs experience burnout without warning. They don't collapse loudly. They fade quietly. And if this continues unchecked, it creates the third struggle. One that affects relationships, careers, and self-worth. 3. The world rewards speed, not depth. Modern life moves fast. Decisions are made quickly. Opinions are shared instantly. Success is often measured by visibility, not substance. INFJs don't operate this way. They think deeply before speaking. They need time to process ideas. They care more about long-term impact than short-term wins. This creates a constant mismatch. In school, INFJs may be overlooked because they don't raise their hand first. At work, their ideas are sometimes ignored until someone louder repeats them. In conversations, they're mistaken for being passive when they're actually reflecting. Over time, INFJs internalize a harmful message. That depth equals slowness. That careful thinking equals weakness. So they try to adapt. They push themselves to act faster. They speak before they're ready. They force confidence instead of cultivating clarity. But this comes at a cost. Because when INFJs abandon their natural rhythm, they lose access to their strongest asset, their insight. And when insight is rushed, it becomes noise. This leads directly to the next struggle. 4. They are constantly misunderstood. INFJs live in their inner world. Most of their processing happens internally. From the outside, this can look like distance, or indifference, or secrecy. But inside, INFJs are deeply engaged. They are analyzing patterns, connecting dots, considering emotional consequences. The problem is that few people see this inner complexity. So INFJs are often labeled incorrectly. Too quiet, too sensitive, too intense, too idealistic. And when you're misunderstood repeatedly, something shifts. INFJs stop explaining themselves. They assume being understood is unlikely. They choose silence over correction. This protects them, but it also isolates them. They may be surrounded by people and still feel unseen. They may be loved and still feel unknown. And this misunderstanding doesn't just affect relationships. It shapes how INFJs see themselves. They begin to wonder if something is wrong with them, when in reality, they're simply rare. This sets the stage for the next struggle. 5. Their idealism collides with reality. INFJs are guided by vision. They imagine how things could be better, how people could treat each other more kindly, how systems could function more ethically. This isn't fantasy, it's foresight. But the world often doesn't cooperate. People choose convenience over integrity. Systems reward profit over purpose. Truth is compromised for comfort. For INFJs, this creates a quiet grief. They see what's possible, and they also see how far reality falls short. At first, they try to help. They offer ideas. They advocate for change. But repeated resistance wears them down. They begin to feel naive for caring, exhausted for hoping, disillusioned for believing things could improve. Some INFJs harden, others withdraw, and many carry a sense of disappointment that never fully leaves. This internal conflict leads to the sixth struggle, one that affects their energy, motivation, and mental health. 6. They need solitude, but feel guilty for it. INFJs require alone time to function well, not as an escape, but as a reset. Solitude allows them to process emotions, clarify thoughts, reconnect with their inner compass. But here's the problem. The world interprets withdrawal as rejection. So when INFJs step back, they often feel guilty. They worry about disappointing others. They fear being seen as cold or distant. As a result, they overextend themselves. They socialize when they're depleted. They say yes when they need rest. They give when they're already empty. This creates a cycle. Overstimulation leads to exhaustion. Exhaustion leads to withdrawal. Withdrawal leads to guilt. And guilt pulls them back into overstimulation. Until eventually, something breaks. This leads to the next struggle. One that explains why INFJs often disappear without explanation. 7. They withdraw instead of asking for help. INFJs are private about their pain. They don't want to burden others. They don't want to be misunderstood again. They don't trust that help will come without cost. So they retreat. They process silently. They struggle invisibly. They hope time alone will fix everything. Sometimes it does. But sometimes, it doesn't. And when INFJs withdraw too deeply, they cut themselves off from support they actually need. From the outside, it looks like distance. From the inside, it feels like self-preservation. This is why INFJs are often described as mysterious. Not because they want to be, but because they've learned it's safer to suffer quietly. This leads to the 8th struggle, one that affects how INFJs relate to success itself. 8. They struggle with traditional definition of success. INFJs aren't motivated by status alone. They want work that matters, relationships that are meaningful, lives that align with their values. But society often defines success differently. Money, titles, visibility. So INFJs feel torn. They may achieve external success and still feel empty, or reject conventional paths and feel insecure. Either way, they question themselves. Why doesn't this feel fulfilling? Why do I want something different? Why does everyone else seem satisfied? This creates internal tension. They feel out of sync with the world, as if they're playing a different game with different rules. This confusion leads directly to the ninth struggle. 9. They hold themselves to impossible standards. INFJs have strong inner ideals. They want to be kind, but also honest. Strong, but also compassionate. Purpose-driven, but also practical. Balancing these ideals is exhausting. So when they fall short, they're hard on themselves. They replay conversations, analyze mistakes, question their intentions. They expect emotional maturity from themselves long before others do. And because they see potential so clearly, they're constantly aware of the gap between who they are and who they want to become. This self-pressure doesn't motivate them, it drains them. And when combined with all the previous struggles, it leads to the final and most painful truth. 10. They feel like they don't belong to this world. INFJs often carry a quiet sense of alienation. Not dramatic, not loud, just persistent. They feel out of place in shallow conversations, out of alignment with careless systems, out of step with a culture that values noise over meaning. They don't want to escape life. They want to understand it. But when understanding isn't valued, they feel invisible. This doesn't mean INFJs are meant to suffer. It means they're meant to build something different. And that is the real payoff. The struggles of INFJs aren't flaws. They are signals. Signals that depth has a cost. That awareness carries weight. That meaning requires courage. INFJs struggle not because they're broken, but because they refuse to live shallow lives. And once they stop trying to fit into a world that wasn't designed for them, everything changes. If this resonated with you, you're not alone. And if you felt this way your whole life, now you know why. The struggle was never the problem. Misunderstanding it was.